Hey YouTubers, gonna do an easy one today. This is for a front load washing machine that won't drain. Usually, besides not draining, sometimes the door won't open because there's still water in there. It won't go to spin. You look in there, you can see there's water still trapped inside. So to fix this, we can unplug it. We can pull it away from the wall a little bit. I put my tool case underneath it. I kind of lifted it up slightly. That allowed me to lift it up so I can get to these little screws underneath the bottom panel. Some front loaders don't have a bottom panel underneath the door, and you have to get to the drain by going through the back of the washer. But on this model and a lot of models, there's this panel you can pull off. So you have to just lift it up a little bit to get the screws out. And once you get the screws out, you can just pull the panel off, and then the drain is actually right there. And usually there's just something caught in the drain. Today, we'll go over how to clean out the drain and maybe even remove the anti-siphon device, which sometimes malfunctions, and it's not really necessary. If you get it out of there, your drain will work better. So I pulled off that bottom panel, and now I can see this thing in front of me. It looks kind of like the face of a clock. I'm going to turn it to my left. This is the coin trap. I'm going to put a little towel underneath there because some water is going to come out. Again, I've got it unplugged, and now I'm going to turn that to the left slightly, let a little water come out, and I'll towel it up, and then I'll do that repeatedly until all the water's gone. It may take a few towels to do this. The water will kind of collect in the metal pan underneath, and then there's little holes, so it'll kind of drip out towards you. So it's best if you can get the towel actually a little bit underneath the washer, and that'll help absorb any of that water. So it could be, about a bucket full, like a small paint bucket full of water. And I'm taking out a little bit more. And then I can get the coin trap out. I can just pull the thing out. I might find there's a sock in there or a bunch of crud. And if that's the case, you can just remove all that stuff and then put it back together and you're done. I'm also reaching in with my index finger, and there's a little hole to the right, and I'm going to turn the impeller, the drain impeller. I want to make sure that thing can spin pretty easily. You'll feel like a little magnetic drag as you turn it. It's going to be moving easily, then a little difficult. But if it's very difficult, there may be a rubber band or a hair tie wrapped around the impeller. And then you'll have to remove the drain pump to free that up. But most of the time, you usually just find there's something caught in there. Also, if you look into that big white area, behind it is a black tube. And if you look in there, you may find a sock stuck. So you can grab it with some pliers and needle nose pliers and pull it out. Be aware though, when you do that, some water may come gushing out. So in this case, I'm going to be removing the anti-siphon ball that is part of the drain mechanism. I'll be pulling this wire housing out just to give me more room. And then I'm going to get the drain disconnected from the bottom of the frame so I have a little bit more room to work. So the drain assembly is this big white thing. The motor's connected to it. I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver to pry out the drain, and then I'll be using some pliers to remove the clamp that's holding the big black tube here in the back onto the plastic washer tub. So you can use channel locks to press in on this spring clamp so you can remove it. There's also a special tool called spring clamp pliers, and they make it even easier because they're less likely to pop off. But again, to give me a little more room to work, I'm just going to be lifting up on this drain mechanism, and I'll use a flathead screwdriver to kind of pry underneath here. There's a rubber piece that's like a shock absorber that's also holding the drain in, and I'm just going to pry up on that to get this drain out. So you're going to find this on most of the Whirlpool machines. Have this, like the Duet. This one actually has a Kenmore badge, which means it's a Whirlpool, but it's sold by Sears, so they put the Kenmore badge on. But Kenmore is just any of the machines sold by Sears. So you can see that rubber grommet lifting it out of the frame. And I'm just going to get this pump assembly over to the side to give me a little bit more room so I can see better. Wish we had better lighting here for you guys so you could kind of see where the big rubber tube connects to the plastic tub, but that's where we want to remove. So I'm using pliers to squeeze in on the spring clamp so I can wiggle that clamp down and allow me to get that boot off. Because you got the water out of there already, there should not be very much or any water that will dribble out when you get this big rubber piece off. So here's that ball. I'm going to pop it out of this rubber boot, and this is the anti-siphon ball. Sometimes these get kind of stuck and they cause mischief. It's kind of an over-engineering aspect of this machine. You don't really need it, so my advice would be pull it out, clean the area inside there, and then we can go ahead and put this rubber piece back on to the tub. If you ever go to run your washer drain and you hear like a humming sound, that usually means that the impeller is trying to turn, but it's rubbing against something. But when you remove the coin trap, you can feel in there and see what that obstruction is and then free it up. In my experience, most often what's happened is a sock or something has been dragged in by the drain mechanism, and that's just obstructing the water flow. And once you get that out, you're good to go. So removing this anti-siphon ball is usually not necessary. It's just an extra step. It did work well for this particular machine. So these are those special hose clamp pliers. You can get them on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. They're pretty cool. They allow you to get a little bit better grip on these hose clamps. This is a really big spring clamp, hose clamp, and I just wanted to press it and squish it so that it's very open. That's going to allow me to get this rubber big opening back onto the plastic tub, and then I can go ahead and release the spring clamp so it has nice spring tension. I want you to make sure that you get that rubber boot here way up onto the tub as securely as you can, and then make sure that the spring clamp is nice and tight before you fill the machine. If that is not on there securely, you'll have a lot of water leak out suddenly, which we don't want. So I'm still just working with getting that back on securely. And then what I'll do next is I'll go ahead and push the drain pump assembly back down into the metal frame. I'll make sure those rubber pieces are pushed back into the hole, and I will put the coin trap back in. I'll get it nice and tight, and I'll let some water fill in, and then I'll test it. So you can see I got the boot in position. Now I put the spring clamp up as far as it'll go, and there's a little rubber ridge that it fits into. Then I just released the tension that I had on the pliers, and that makes the clamp really tight, so it feels like I have a really good connection. So now I want to push that pump back into the holes that hold it, pump housing. I'm just going to use downward pressure, wiggle it in. Take your time. And this little thing off to my right is just a cover for the wires that bring power to the pump. So here's the coin trap. You put that back in. Kind of wiggle it in and then turn to your right as far as it'll go, righty-tighty. You want to get it nice and secure. So again, on some of the models, this whole thing that we're looking at is actually pointing toward the back or toward the side, and it's accessible by taking off the back panel. Like we have a really modern Whirlpool at home, and that's how you do it. but it's otherwise very similar. Get the towels out of there. I think I'll redo this. Mounting, make sure it's really in there tight. Squish it in with my flathead screwdriver, push the rubber way down into that hole, you get it tighter. And once again, this is probably way more than you would normally need to do to fix your drain. Usually it's just that coin trap. I'm putting that power wire back onto the pump and then closing its cover. And I'll get that coin trap piece in there tight. Sometimes these don't screw in correctly. There might be something in the way, and you can just take them out and make sure that the threads are clear. There's no sand or anything blocking the threads. I'm just going to give it a visual inspection. Okay, I want to get it nice and flat, wiggle it in, and then I'll tighten it up. You want to turn it until it won't turn anymore. Super tight. There we go. Put those wire harnesses back in. Just push in against the frame. All right. Close that back up. Plug it in. Give it a little test. We'll just fill it. And here's that ball, that anti-siphon ball that we pulled out. Usually not necessary. Plug it back in. And I will set it to fill. As it fills though, I'm going to stare in and make sure I don't have a leak. If I have a leak, I'll press cancel and that'll activate the drain and I'll have less water leaking. I'm going to make sure you check before you give it a full filling. So it did not leak, so we filled it up all the way, full of water, and then we set it for drain. And the drain did work well this time. Back to a functioning washing machine. Usually this whole thing, because you're just doing the coin trap, it's going to take you about 15 minutes. You do this procedure probably half an hour. So I'm going to put that bottom plate back in. I'll push it up with little indexing pieces. I'll push it up into the bottom of the front panel. Then I'll push in the bottom of it until it's lined up. And then I'm going to put in the Phillips head screws. Usually there's 3 of them at the bottom. Sometimes they're little quarter inch screws rather than Phillips head screws. You may need to push up a little bit on the metal underneath, and essentially to kind of bend the metal up so the holes line up better. It's such a neat thing because you don't have to wait for someone to come and fix your washing machine. You can do it yourself. You save money. All you really need is a Phillips head screwdriver, some pliers, and some towels, a little bit of your time, and you'll get your machine going. It's a common problem. It does have the symptom of water's left in there. Sometimes the door won't open and it won't go to spin. These are little quarter-inch screws. So I'm just lining them up and then I'm going to tighten those up. And once again, we ended up with a really good washing machine that drains great again. So thanks so much for watching our video, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance, and also click the little bell notification button so we can send you weekly videos on all the different ways of fixing appliances around your home and saving you lots of money. So thanks again for watching, and please also press the like button for our video if this was helpful to you. Feel free to contact me.